maathre, namaha. With the divine blessings of our Mother Divine, the Mahatri Sundari and Father Divine Lord Mahadeva, today we'll make a brief attempt to the extent our divine parents allow us to discuss about our Jagathguru, Adi Sankaracharya, on his birthday. During the 8th century AD, almost 1,000 years after Buddha's Avatara Nishkamana or demise, the Vedic India was heavily inflated with misinformed gurus, ill-informed practitioners who were caught up with just rituals without really understanding the intent of why each ritual was prescribed the way it has been prescribed by the Vedas. Jaimini, Kumarila Bhattu were one of or few of the leading practitioners who were trying to ingrain Vedas in the Avedic society that India was becoming in the 8th century, given the 32 Avedic beliefs that have originated from Veda and Veda's derivatives, and with the flow of time became a faith of its own without any firm basis. This was the time when the Sanatana Dharma, which was depicted as a deer that was being attacked by a pack of wolves, hyenas, and a pride of lion, and to restore the roots of Sanatana Dharma, all the gods and goddesses have knocked on the doors of none other than the Mahadeva, the Deva of the Devas, and requested his interference in restoring Sanatana Dharma as it was before and as it should be forever. Then that Guru, Dakshinamurti, he always continues to teach with a silence and smile, chose to walk on this planet, and he chose the Veda Bhumi Bharatakandam, given its Karma Tattvam, Punya Tattvam, and the belief in the Vedic system. And also he chose the Deva Bhumi, Kerala Rastram, or the state of Kerala, given the importance of Kerala because of one of his great devotees, Parashurama. Parashurama, after donating earth to Kashyapa Maharshi, was without land, and whatever one donates, he or she should not use it, otherwise it will be a sin. So Kashyapa asked Parashurama, now since you have donated me this whole earth, where will you go and reside? At that word, Parashurama realized that he should not live on the land that he donated. So he went to the southern tip of India and requested the Samudra to give him land which did not exist before. Knowing the anger and its dimension of Parashurama, Samudra requested Parashurama to throw his axe into the ocean, and wherever it lands, until that extent, he will vacate the land and give it to Parashurama. So Parashurama threw his axe, and where it fell, that became Kerala as Samudra vacated that land. And Parashurama, in order to make that newly formed Bhumi a part of the Bharata Veda Bhumi, invited Brahmins, Vedic scholars from all the states up north, and introduced a new tradition of Madhya Sikha and started teaching Veda to them. So until then, there was the upper Sika, there was a lower Sika with Parashurama and his newly formed divine Bhumi Kerala. The Madhyasika Sampradayam of Nambudri Brahmins has started. So Bhagavan Sadashiva chose Kerala Rastram, given his great devotees' dedication, penance and devotion towards Shiva, and the Nambudri Brahmins have maintained Veda intact for a very, very, very long time, following the rules and regulations as stipulated by Parashurama to all of them. The story of Shankara and his significant 32 years of life, I'm taking my Guru Sampradaya of Sringeri's Vidyaranya Swami's Shankara Vijayam as a source and talking through. There have been many who have attempted reflecting on Shankara Vijayam in their own ways, but for me, the Moola Mantram is my Guru and the Guru's lineage, which is the Sringeri Peetham. And the basis of what I'm going to share with all of you will be from the Shankara Vijayam as given by none other than the Mahaswami of Sringeri, Vidyaranya Swami. As Vidyaranya Swami says, Agnantar Gahanapatitan Atma Vidyopadeshaha Tratum Lokan Bhavadavashikha Thapa Papa Chamanan Mukta Maunam Vatavitapinor Mulato Nishapatanti Shambhor Murtihi Charati Bhuvane Sankaracharya Rupa. That Sankaracharya who is always surrounded by the great Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana and Sanat Kumara, to whom he teaches with a mere smile and silence, has made a resolute to talk and spread the bliss of truth, the Vedic truth, amongst the ignorant lot that has been spreading and filling up the planet rapidly. Therefore, making that decision, that Guru Dakshinamurti who looks at south to protect all the mere mortals that are engulfed in the materialistic hunt of wealth, money, fame, bodily pleasures, who are on an accelerated path going towards south. That Guru from the Mount Kailash in the up north in the Himalayas walked all the way to one of the southernmost states of India, Kerala, and blessed the divine couple Aryambha and Shivaguru. This divine devotee couple were issueless, they didn't have kids for a very, very long time. And at the Tishur Shiva temple, Mother Aryamba and Shivaguru followed the Mandala Diksha for 41 days, doing Shivanama Bhajan and sleeping in the temple following Brahmacharya. And on the 41st day, as they finished the Mandala Diksha, Shiva appeared to both of them in the dream and asked, would you want to have a normal son who will live 100 years, or would you want to have a Brahmagyani, my equivalent, who will live only 8 years? And when the mother and father both woke up with the dream, as they started walking towards each other, both of them had the same resolute that if Bhagavan Kailasavashi Shankara makes a decision to be born with the Brahmagyanam, their lives will be blessed and fulfilled. With that decision, they pray to the Lord that they need a son, a Brahmagyani who will live up to mere 8 years. When they made that resolute, in no time Mother Aryamba became pregnant, and on Vaisakha Shukla Panchami, with the Shiva star Arudra and the 4 spiritual planets in the elevated exalted state, Sun, Saturn, Jupiter and Mars, when they were in the elevated exalted state, the divine devotee couple were blessed with Jagathguru Shankara. In this episode, we have discussed until the birth of Jagathguru. In the next episode, I will come back and explain the formative years of the Jagathguru and more details. Stay blessed. Sree maathre namaha. Sree maathre namaha. With the divine blessings of our Mother Divine Lalita Maha Tripura Sundari and Father Divine Lord Mahadeva. In the previous episode, we have discussed about the birth of Jagathguru Adi Sankaracharya to the devotee divine couple, Mother Aryamba and Father Shivaguru. When Jagathguru Sankaracharya was 2 years old, his father passed away, and Aryamba raised single-handedly the Jagathguru Adi Sankaracharya. Looking at the intelligence, the prowess, the intellect of the kid, all the Vedic scholars of Kaladi Agraharam in Kerala, the current day Cochin, recommended that the Upanayana Samskara should be performed without any further delay, given the proficiency of the young Shankara in Sanskrit and his enthusiasm to learn Vedas and Upanishads, Puranas. Only an Upanayanam was stopping him to get initiated into Veda Sampradaya. And as his Upanayam was performed at 5 years, in special circumstances with kids with extraordinary intellect ability, the Upanayanam can be performed at 5 years, typically including the mother's Garbhastakam, 10 months in the mother's temple or the womb. A kid's Upanayanam needs to be performed on the first Muhurtam after he crosses 7 years 2 months of age. After the Upanayanam was performed, the little Shankara Brahmachari went on begging, on Bhiksha, on one day. When he was going rounds and doing rounds for his Bhiksha, he approached a very poor Brahmani's house, and when he went to the house and said, Bhavati Bhiksham Dehi, that poor Brahmin lady did not have anything to offer but for a amla piece, and the amla piece is typically kept in all the houses to break the Ekadasi Upavasam on the Dwadasi Triti, and given the poverty that she was stuck in, she did not have anything at her house other than just a piece of amla or the gooseberry. When Jagathguru, the 5-year-old Adi Shankara, looked at the poverty of this old Brahmin lady, he moved with compassion, and as a 5-year-old, his first composition, Kanakadara, erupted out of that young brahmachari, which goes as few lines from that Mahamantram Kanakadara. Vande Vandaru Mandaram Indirananda Kandalam Amandananda Sandoham Banduram Sindurananam Angam Hare Pulakabhushanam Ashrayanti Brunganganeva Mukula Varanam Tamalam Angi Krutakila Vibhuti Rapangalila Mangalya Dastu Mama Mangala Devataya. When the whole Kanakadara Stavam was chanted for 1 hour 48 minutes, Mother Goddess of Wealth Mahalakshmi rained Bangara Usirikas or the gold gooseberries, and even today when you reach Cochin, you can visit that house which is called Suvarna Thamalai, the house where it rained gold, where Jagathguru as a 5-year-old cute little lad chanted the very powerful Kanakadara Stavam, which continues to bless whoever chants it with wealth, health, and prosperity, even till date. After this episode, few days after, when Mother Aryamba came back from her Nadi Sthanam of Purna Nadi, she complained of the joint pains, and the very compassionate Jagathguru Sankaracharya went to the river during the Sayam Sandhya or the evening Gayatri and prayed to the river with tears-filled eyes, given his mother's joint pains. And he requested the Purna Nadi to change its course to come to his backyard so his mother need not walk a far distance. Rivers will never change their course. Once the creation happens, they have to follow the path that Brahma prescribes them. Unless a god greater than Brahma rules, commands, or requests them to change the course. When Jagathguru Adi Sankaracharya requested the Purna Nadi, overnight it changed the course, and when the river's course was being changed, there was the temple of Sri Krishna Paramatma, the Ilavelpu of Adi Sankaracharya's family, where Krishna appeared in Adi Shankara's dream and said, as the rising level of water was flooding his temple, Krishna asked Sankaracharya to move that little Krishna to a place of higher elevation so his temple will get flooded, but he will continue to be translocated or transported to a different place. Bhagavan Krishna was immediately attended to by Jagathguru Sankaracharya, and Sankaracharya went to the temple and got that Divya Mangala Murti of Sri Krishna and placed it. Even now, when one visits the Kaladi Agraharam, where Jagathguru Adi Sankaracharya's birthplace is clearly marked, right next to it you will see that Sri Krishna temple to which the Jagathguru's family and he himself used to pray every day as he was there, Ilavelpu. And when the Purna Nadi changed its course overnight, all the people who witnessed it were astonished at the magical powers of Adi Sankaracharya, or Shankara still. And that next morning, when Shankara went to the Nadi Sthanam, his mother was sitting on the banks and watching him, and a crocodile came and held his leg, dragging him into the river. And Jagathguru Adi Sankara cried aloud to his mother, saying, "Oh mother, this crocodile is grabbing my leg and it's pulling me into the water. If you allow me to take Sannyasa Diksha, Apad Sannyasam, since I am a disaster at the moment, you can allow me as my mother, and if I say I am accepting Sannyasam, this crocodile will immediately release my leg because it's as good as a rebirth. If you won't allow, then there's every chance that this crocodile might pull me in and you might lose me to the crocodile as its feast." When the mother Aryamba heard, she thought to herself real quick and thought, if I allow the son to take sannyasam, at least he will be alive and he will be walking alive in front of me. And therefore she said helplessly yes. The moment she said yes, that crocodile left the leg of Jagathguru and relieved him. Immediately that crocodile turned into a Gandharva who was who was actually cursed, and he bowed down and talked briefly about his curse, from his arrogance about wealth and how he ridiculed Shiva, and therefore he was cursed. And when Shiva walked on the planet, if the crocodile were to touch Shiva's feet, that's when it will be relieved, proving Kaladi Shankara is none other than Kailasha Shankara. When this happened, Shankaracharya accepted Apat Sannyasam, and as he came out of the banks of the river, mother was so happy and she hugged him and said, "Okay, oh my son, let's go home." For which Shankaracharya smiled, bowed down to his mother, touched her feet and said, "Oh mother, now I am a sannyasi and I'm not supposed to go to a home. The world is my home. I should not stay anywhere for more than the time it takes to milk a cow. I should not have sangha with anyone. But following the sannyasa dharma, you will always be attended to by me. The moment you need me, I will come and attend to you. And I am making a promise that during your last time or whenever you want to see me, I will always appear in front of you. No time." Making that promise, Shankaracharya left home in search of a guru. With this episode, we will conclude Shankaracharya accepting Apat Sannyasam and going out to search for a guru as prescribed by the Vedas. Stay blessed, continue to spread the bliss. Sree maathre namaha. Sree maathre namaha. With the divine blessings of our Mother Divine Lata Mahatripura Sundari and Father Divine Lord Mahadeva, we have discussed Bhagavan Shankaracharya's birth, and in the last episode we have discussed about until when he accepted Apat Sannyasam. In today's episode we'll discuss about the Guru Upadesam, when Bhagavan Shankaracharya went searching up north on the banks of Namda river. He actually saw a Divya Guru. He saw the deer skin hanging by the branches of the tree and some dry wood that has been kept there, which signify the presence of a saint. And when Shankaracharya was approaching the cave, Narmada river was raising its water level, and as the flood was increasing, the Narmada banks were flooded, and all the people around those banks and the villages came rushing to the cave to have the saint in the cave, who is known as Govinda Bhagavat Pada. And when they were approaching the cave, the water levels receded slowly, and looking at this scene, Bhagavan Shankaracharya was very, very happy. He reached the door of the cave and bowed down with his folded hands to that great Guru, Govinda Bhagavat Pada, who is none other than Patanjali. In the previous life, he was Patanjali himself and the student of Gaudapada Acharya. Gaudapada Acharya is a deathless, desireless saint who continues to appear in many, many, many forms. Gaudapada Acharya was the direct disciple of the Sukha Maharshi, who explained the Bhagavatam to none other than Parikshit in 7 nights. And Sukha Maharshi is none other than Bhagavan Vyasa Maharshi's son. This is the lineage of Shankaracharya. When Bhagavan Shankaracharya reached that cave and bowed down his head in reverence to Guru, the Guru Govinda Padacharya, who was in Samadhi, realized the ripples of very positive vibration in his Samadhi, and he from his Samadhi asked, "Who are you?" That's when Bhagavan Shankaracharya gave the very famous Nirvana Dasakam, which is also called Dasasloki. Many people confuse Nirvana Dasakam with Nirvana Satakam. Both are different. Nirvana Satakam was given towards the end of Bhagavan Shankaracharya's avatara, but Nirvana Dasakam essentially talks about the few lines from Nirvana Dasakam or Dasasloki go as Na bhumi na toyam na tejo na vayu nakam nendriyam va na teshyam namu samuha anekantikatva preka siddha, which essentially says, I am neither the earth, nor the water, nor the fire, nor the air, nor the sky. I am not the senses, nor the mind. I am Shiva, the divisionless essence of consciousness. When this was heard by the Guru Govindapadacharya in Samadhi, he said, "The one who is in front of me is none other than Shivoham Prityaksha Shivoham." And Guru Govindapadacharya or Govindapada kept his feet out of the cave. Jagathguru Adi Sankara bowed down and touched his head to those feet, following what the Vedas have prescribed on how a Guru's service and how Guru's padukas and Guru's feet need to be prayed to, therefore setting a reference by example to the world and generations to come. Though he was the Guru Dakshinamurti himself, since he is in the human form, it is quintessential for Bhagavat Pada Sankaracharya to reach out to the feet of a Guru in the human body, and therefore he took refuge at Govindapadacharya. And Govindapadacharya not only instantiated Bhagavan Sankaracharya with Virja Homam and performed the ritualistic Sannyasa Diksha and gave him the new Namam, restored it as Sankaracharya. Shankara was born as Shankara even after his sannyasam. His name was not changed, and his Yoga Pattam also said Sankaracharya. Probably the only saint whose name was never changed from birth to Sannyasa Diksha and after Sannyasa Diksha as well. After Jagathguru was initiated into the Sannyasa Diksha, Guru Govindapadacharya gave him the 4 Mahavakyas, and after the 4 Mahavakyas were given, Sankaracharya used to sit and practice the Vedic Upanishad tattvas and secrets as discussions with his Guru. And one day when the Guru was in deep Samadhi, Narmada floods started rising and all the villagers reached the cave one more time. This time Bhagavan Sankaracharya, after saying the 4 Mahavakyas, chanted the Pranava mantra Omkaram and arrested the rising flood waters in his Kamandalam, showing his yogic powers, demonstrating his Bhutadaya towards all Bhutas, and Narmada river went back to its normalcy. Narmada river raised its level to demonstrate the capability of this young Sankaracharya, who is now 9 years old. And after this, Guru woke up from his Samadhi and ordered the young sannyasi Shankara to go to Mahakashi, Varanasi. When Bhagavan Sankaracharya arrived at Varanasi, as he was walking through those divine streets of the Mahasmasana Kasi, Varanasi, everyone was astonished to look at him. They thought, is this young boy, the young sannyasi, he is the Vamana in the disguise, Vamana Brahmachari in the disguise of a sannyasi, walking the streets of Mahakasi. And when Sankaracharya started living in Varanasi, he did the very famous Prasthanatrayam, which is, he gave discourses on Bhagavad Gita, gave discourses on Upanishad, and gave the discourse on Brahma Sutras, which are collectively called Prasthanatrayam. And one day after the Prasthanatrayam was done in Varanasi, as Bhagavan Sankaracharya was walking towards the Manikarnika Ghat in Kasi, one of the ghats of Ganges or Pavitra Ganga, a drunk Chandala with 4 dogs that are pulling him in 4 different directions was walking without balance, and Sankaracharya with his set of disciples who were trying to shoo him away said, please give way to the Jagathguru Adi Sankara, that Chandala stopped for a second, smiled at all the disciples and laughed at them, and looked at Sankaracharya and said, "Whom are you asking to get aside? Are you asking this body to get aside and give you way, or you're asking somebody else?" And then, without waiting for an answer, the Chandala also said, "This body comes from the same sources for all of us. It feeds on the same material that we call annam and performs the same functions for everyone, irrespective of how we look, how we appear, the color of skin, and where you're born. It does the same functions in everyone." So is your question, O sannyasi, to this physical body that you are able to see, or is your question and command and demand to get away to that consciousness that is witnessing everything, that Atma that is there in all of us, which is like the reflecting sun in my pot of alcohol and the very sun that reflects in Ganga, depending on where he reflects in and on, the originality of sun does not change. Similarly, the space in a pot of mud and in a pot of gold does not necessarily change the Akasa Tattvam or space Tattvam. Similarly, wind that flows and flows on a dead body versus a garden does not have an association. So what are you talking and whom are you addressing, to this body or to that associationless Atma? When Bhagavan Sankaracharya heard these sentences full of meaning and Advaitic philosophy, he fell on the ground and bowed down to the Chandala and did the very famous Manisha Panchakam, which essentially talks about the conversation of what the Chandala explained about the Advaitic philosophy and how the Atma Tattvam is same for everyone, whether it is a Brahmin, a Sudra, or a dog. It is the same Sat Chit Ananda consciousness that goes on. One of the slokams from Manisha Panchakam is Jagrat Swapna Sushupti Sputataraya Samvidyukte Ya Brahmadi Pipili Tanusha Prota Jagat Sakshini Saivaham Chana Drishyavastuti Drida Pragnasi Yastasiche Chandalostu Satudujostu Gurur Tishya Manisha Mama. It's been a long time since I chanted the Manisha Panchakam. So as my memory serves, this is one of the 5 stanzas of the Manisha Panchakam that Bhagavan Sankaracharya chanted when he looked at the Jagathguru. Shiva in the disguise of Chandala. The moment Manisha Panchakam was done, Shiva appeared in his Rupam, Vishwarupam and the Mahaprasanna Rupam to Shankara, and he said, Vyasa edited the Vedas, now you are supposed to compose the Bhashyams for Brahma Sutrams in detail, which you have commenced and completed in Mahakasi. Write detailed commentary on them so even a common man can understand. Refute all the false theories and the false self-proclaimed gurus who are claiming to be gurus and are going after wine, women and wealth with materialistic possessions and materialistic wealth, being greedy about everything that shines and glitters. Knowledge of the truth is what you need to restore with focus on Tat Tvam Asi and Aham Brahmasmi, the Advaitic eternal truths, and appoint very competent disciples as the Vedic guardians before you leave this Veda Bhumi to protect the Veda Bhumi for the Kalikalam to come, and once done, you will reach my abode with the same body that you're walking this planet with, saying that Shiva disappeared. With this incident and episode, we will conclude this episode. In the next episode, I will make an attempt to talk about the next years of Bhagavan Sankaracharya starting from his 12th year. Stay blessed. Sree maathre namaha. Sree maathre namaha. With the divine blessings of our Mother Divine Lalita Mahatri Prasundari and Father Divine Lord Mahadeva. In the previous episode, we have discussed about the Chandala's interaction with Bhagavan Sankaracharya and how Shiva in the disguise of Chandala helped Sankaracharya come up with Manisha Panchakam and then gave his next set of commandments that Bhagavan Sankaracharya had to fulfill before his time on this planet was done. Now you might have a doubt that when Aryamba and Shivaguru were blessed, they were blessed to have a son of 80 years. But when looking at the intellectual prowess of the young brahmachari Shankara before sannyasam, when he said Kanakadhara, great saints like Agastya, Vishwamitra and the Saptarishis were so happy with the intellectual prowess and the Vedic knowledge of Shankara. They blessed him with another 80 years to accomplish and establish Sanatana Dharma on this planet. That is how his life was extended from 8 to 16. And when he approached his Guru, and when Govindapadacharya asked him to go to Kasi and Varanasi, he was 10 years old. And from Kasi, when Sankaracharya started to go to Badari Narayana in the Himalayas, he was 12 years old. When he went to Badari Narayana, he was summoned to Badari by none other than Vedavyasa to initiate him to start writing the discourse on the Veda Sutras. Having gone to Badari, Bhagavan Sankaracharya started writing the Veda Sutras of Vyasa, which were decoded and simplified for all the ignorant folks like me also can understand by reading it. And when Sankaracharya translated them and simplified them to increase their reach to a common man, after accomplishing that at Badri, he returned to Kasi, and in Kasi, the one of the first of the four significant devotees of Sankaracharya, Sanandana, started approaching Sankaracharya, and given his intellectual abilities, dedication to Guru and Guru Shushrusha, all the previous disciples who used to follow Sankaracharya started becoming jealous of Sanandana, and to show them his mettle, one day what Sankaracharya did was, when he was on the Satya Harishchandra Ghat and was going towards the Ganga's banks, he saw Sanandana was on the other side of river Ganga, and looking at the Jagathguru, Sanandana bowed down to the Guru on the other side of the bank, and Sankaracharya just raised his right hand and signaled Sanandana to come. Without even thinking for a second, Sanandana started walking on the river Ganges, and wherever he was about to set his foot, river Ganges floated a lotus, and therefore Sanandana became Padmapada. And this episode of absolute faith in Guru's words proved his dedication, his quality of Guru Sushrusha to all the other close to 6,000 saints that were following Sankaracharya wherever he went. And Sanandana, now becoming Padmapada, was the foremost of the disciples of Bhagavan Sankaracharya. Given the importance and significance of dualism during those days, where people used to think God is different and human or any being is different, Shankaracharya, wherever he set his foot, he became a terror to controversialists and conformists and an object of adoration to all the devotees aspiring to realize the Brahmagyanam. And given the young age of Shankaracharya, many of the established scholars who were physically much older than the young 12-year-old Bhagavad Pada could not establish the fact in their minds that this young saint is the walking Shiva of Benares, and therefore they need to start taking refuge at his feet. Therefore they used to come with all kinds of controversies to fix Bhagavad Pada, but in no way. It's like trying to throw an arrow set on fire at sun. Whoever attempts that would be futile and would be a foolish attempt. And in the process, nobody ever even came to a distant closer in trying to insult Bhagavan Shankaracharya. As this continued, one day, on the banks of Varanasi, as Bhagavan Shankaracharya was doing the Purva Sandhya, the early morning Gayatri, he saw an old Brahmin approached him on the Manikarnika Ghat and asked some questions from the Brahma Sutras and the Veda Sutras that Bhagavan Shankaracharya has written, and what started as a discussion and a conversation became a full-fledged debate which continued for 18 days without water and food, and they were sitting on the banks of river Ganga on Manikarnika Ghat and continued to discuss with a smile. That intellectual debate continued for 18 days. Padmapada, who was a Narasimhopasaka, saw the signs of Vishnu Tattvam and Narayana Tattvam coming from that old Brahmin. So he bowed down to his Guru Shankaracharya and covering his lips and mouth at a distance, Padmapadacharya told his Guru, "Hey Bhagavan, I believe the old Brahmin who is sitting across you is none other than Veda Vyasa himself." When Shankaracharya heard this from his disciple, he immediately stood up and prostrated as Sastangam to the old Brahmin, and Shankaracharya requested that old Brahmin, saying, "I think you are none other than the Vyasa Bhagavan himself who has come to test me. Can you please give me your expert opinion on whether I have done any justification in translating your magnum opus on Brahma Sutras and Veda Sutras?" Vyasa, looking at the humbleness, looking at the intellectual prowess and humility of Bhagavan Shankaracharya, hugged him and said, "You have done a fantastic job, my son, and you have accomplished what Shiva has asked." Then Shankaracharya turned to Vyasa and said, "O Guru, then my 16 years are coming to an end in 5 days. I wish to go back and become one with that Sadashiva Tattvam, if you allow me." To which Vyasa said, No, not yet. There are still many more misinformed gurus who need to be defeated, and therefore you need to live another 16 years with the blessings of none other than Mahamrityunjaya, Shiva," and smiled back at Shankaracharya. And Shankaracharya smiled back. The smiles meant that it is your sankalpam, O Mahamrityunjaya, that you need to live for another 16 years to clean and wipe clean the misinformed gurus who are continuing to focus on rituals alone without focusing on the impetus, on the Veda, on the backing of Veda. Therefore, please continue to live and walk on this planet for another 16 years when your mission will be accomplished. Saying this, Bhagavan Vyasa disappeared. Sankaracharya bowed to him with a smile, and with that we will conclude this episode. In the next episodes, I will try to make an attempt of Sankaracharya Bhagavad-pada's life from 17th year onwards. Do take care, stay blessed. Sree maathre namaha. Sree maathre namaha. In the previous episode, we have discussed about the divine debate between Vyasa Maharshi and Bhagavan Sankaracharya, and how Vyasa blessed in the disguise of requesting Bhagavad-pada Sankaracharya to walk on this planet for another 16 years, therefore requesting and extending his life until 32 years. After Vyasa requested and blessed him for another 16 years, Bhagavad-pada Sankaracharya headed towards Prayaga, where as he went to Prayaga, he went to one of the great ritualistic Vedic scholars, Kumarila Bhatta. And when he was approaching Kumarila Bhatta, he saw Kumarila Bhatta was standing on a flame that was slowly consuming the husk and turning into an oven. Kumarila Bhatta looked at the radiating 16-and-a-half-year-old Shankara and bowed down his head in reverence, doing namaskaram. And Kumarila Bhatta said, I have a desire to write Vartikas for all your Shankara Bhashyams, but since I learned the Buddhism from one of the gurus, the tenets of Buddhism, and since the guru thought I cheated him learning the Buddhism without revealing him that I am a Vedic scholar, as an expatriation or as prayashchittam, I am offering my body to this oven of husk which will slowly consume my body. And therefore, O Shankara, please forgive me. And you can go to my prime disciple Vishwarupa and have him write Vartikas. This is my request, my last request to you. And if you can give me Upadesam, I will be blessed for this life of mine, because you will become my Guru. So Shankara imparted the knowledge of Brahma to Kumarila Bhatta as his body was being consumed by that flame of the husk. He smilingly left his mortal coils and became one with the Brahma Tattvam. And whatever Karma Pashas Kumarila Bhatta had were all turned into ashes, therefore blessing him with moksha. As Kumarila Bhatta has requested Bhagavan Sankaracharya to go talk to his prime disciple Vishwarupa, who was famously known as Mandana Mishra. Mandana Mishra was residing in the Mahishmati Nagaram, which is in the current Bihar state. And when Bhagavan Sankaracharya reached Mahishmati, as he was descending down the roof of Mandana Mishra's, Sankaracharya was a Siddharth Kundalini Sastram. So nothing could stop him. He could fly, he could do a lot of yogic kriyas, which appear to be miracles and magic to mere mortals like me, because I am not at that level. But these siddhis are very, very relevant to the siddhas who continue to achieve them, who continue to exist still, but do not reveal those siddhas unless and otherwise there's a divine need and cause that needs to establish a result for a divine karyam. So when Jagathguru Adi Sankaracharya descended down on Mandana Mishra's house. Mandana Mishra was bowing down to Jaimini Maharshi and Vyasa Maharshi, and he hated sannyasis. When he looked at Sankaracharya, the almost 70 and old, he said, "Hey Mundaka, what brings you here? Hey, fully shaved head person, why are you here? I am a ritualistic person. Don't you know you are a sannyasi who has sacrificed all the fire rituals? So why are you here uninvited?" When he was about to go abusive, Vyasa stopped him and said, "Mandana Mishra, the Atidhi has come at the time of lunch. First serve him lunch, then we will talk." Mandana Mishra, who believed in the Vedas, served lunch after bowing down to Sankaracharya, considering him Atidhi Devo Bhava. After serving the meal, Sankaracharya said, "I came here to have a Vada Bhiksha with you, debate." Right? And that Vada Bhiksha, Mandana Mishra said, No, I don't do Vada Bhiksha with sannyasis, I only do it with grihasthas." Then Vyasa interfered and said, "Let's accept the challenge on two conditions. The first one being, Mandana Mishra, you will accept the challenge. To Shankara, if you lose to Mandana Mishra, you have to, wherever you go, you are supposed to say that you are Sankaracharya and you lost to a grihastha by the name Mandana Mishra, who is a ritualistic perfectionist." Many people think that the condition was Sankaracharya should turn into a grihastha, but that is wrong. A person who goes into sannyasashramam should never get out of it. Vedas don't prescribe, in fact they prohibit it. Therefore, the truth is these two conditions were prescribed and both of them agreed. And when Mandana Mishra asked Vyasa to be the judge, Vyasa turned to Mandana Mishra's wife Ubhaya Bharati and said, "Your intellectual wife is the one who should be the judge," saying that Ubhaya Bharati was asked to be the judge of the debate that would commence the next day. Ubhaya Bharati, who is an incarnation of Vagdevi Saraswati, got two garlands and asked them to put in their respective necks, and said, "Whoever loses the garland in and around their neck will start withering away, and they will become the Sishya of the other." And this debate continued for 21 days. On 21st day morning, the garland around Mandana Mishra's neck started withering away, and Mandana Mishra looked at it, realized that he was losing, and when Ubhaya Bharati, his wife, looked at it, she said, "Why don't you both go take a bath and come? I will serve you both bhiksha." Now bhiksha is only served to sannyasis. When a grihastha eats lunch at somebody else's place, if not at his place or even at his place, it is called devatarchana. When Ubhaya Bharati announced that she will serve bhiksha to both, she announced a judgment that her husband lost to Sankaracharya, therefore he should become a sannyasi. But that right after serving lunch, Ubhaya Bharati bowed down to Sankaracharya and said, "Oh divine saint, my husband did lose to you, but he did not lose completely to you, because I, his better half, want to debate with you, and only when I lose, he will lose completely." And Sankaracharya agreed to it, and that debate continued for 17 nights. On the 18th day morning, Ubhaya Bharati realized that there is no way she can beat the young 17-and-a-half-year-old sannyasi in Vedas, Upanishad, Puranas. So she thought, given the celibate sannyasi that Sankaracharya was, and the next day he was turning 18 years old, I will ask him a sastra that probably he will not have any knowledge about, which is the sastra of Kama, which is only known to grihasthas because sannyasis never get into grihasthashramam. Saying this, when she announced, Sankaracharya bowed down to her and said, "Mother, I would need a month's time. And she did agree to it. And Sankaracharya, along with his Sishyas, went in Akasha Marga searching for an able dead body into which he will do Parakaya Pravesam to learn the Sastra of Union or Sastra of Kamadeva, and therefore understand the secrets of creation of life. When he was going through the Akasha Marga, he saw the dead body of a king, Amaruka, that was lying in the forest, and Sankaracharya descended there with his disciples and asked them to protect and preserve his body very carefully, and he went into that body and went to the kingdom where he lived and ruled that kingdom very efficiently, and the ministers were surprised to see the efficiency of the king. They realized a great soul has entered the body through Parakaya Pravesam. So secretively the ministers have asked the soldiers to go around the kingdom. Wherever they see any abandoned dead body, it should be burnt right away, because they wanted the king to rule like an able king for a long time. And even the queens were very happy with the king coming back. And during this 1 month, Sankaracharya learned the secrets of the Sastra of Divine Union or Kama. And on the 30th day, when he realized the time was over, he just went to the prayer room in the Rajagriha. When he was praying to Shiva, he left the body in yoga pose and took his life, the soul, out of that body, went back to the place where his body was. His disciples were being shooed away by the soldiers, who realized that this Siddha and the body that was looking radiating must be the one. The soul of this body must have been the one that entered the king, and therefore they set the pyre ready on fire, and the body was thrown in. At that time, when the soul entered Jagathguru Sankaracharya's life and soul went back to the body, he started doing the very powerful Lakshmi Narasimha Karavalamba Stotram, which some of the lines that go from Sri Lakshmi Narasimha Karavalamba Stotram as Srimat Payoni Diniketana Chakrapane Bhogendra Bhogamani Rajita Punyamurte Yogisha Shashwata Charanya Bhavabdipota Lakshmi Narasimha Mamadevi Karavalambam Samsara Kupamati Ghora Magada Moolam Samprapya Dukkha Sata Sarpa Samakulasya Dinasya Deva Krupaya Padamagatasya. When he said the Karavalamba Stotram of Lakshmi Narasimha, the fire could not destroy the body, and whatever possible sins that the soul might have committed in that body of Amaruka, which it did not, because whatever is done with the body will remain with that body only, unless it is a sin. When the soul entered Amaruka's body, it did the perfect dharma of living as the king, the husband of the queens, and therefore learning the Sastra of Union with the body of the husband, with the wives, was no sin at all. After this was done and Sankaracharya came back and won the debate with Ubaya Bharati transformed herself into Saraswati and was about to fly, and then Sankaracharya, chanting the very powerful Vanadurga mantrams, leashed the Mother Divine Saraswati with her Vanadurga mantrams and requested the mother, "Oh mother, you have to listen to me, that in future I will be establishing the Vagdevi, Saraswati and Mother Divine temples, and wherever I establish them, I will ask and invoke you to come reside there, and you need to bless me and come there," is what he requested. Once mother agreed, he released her, and those amsas of Mother Divine continue to be prevalent in Sringeri, Mukambika and Chotanikara temple in Karnataka and Kerala Rashtra. Now Mandana Mishra, who was initiated into sannyasa, became Sureshwaracharya, and he was given the very powerful Tattvamasi Mahavakyam, who realized the greatness of the 18-year-old Sankaracharya. We'll conclude this episode with this. In the next episodes, we will discuss the next years 19 onwards of Jagathguru Sankaracharya. Stay blessed. Sree maathre namaha. Sree maathre namaha. With the divine blessings of our Mother Divine Lalita Mahathre Prasundari and Father Divine Lord Mahadeva. In the previous episode, we have discussed about Mandana Mishra becoming Sureshwaracharya and how Ubhaya Bharati was about to leave as Mother Goddess Saraswati back to the Satyalokam, and Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya tied her with Vanadurga mantrams and asked her to come and reside in Sringeri, Mukambika and Chotanikarai when he will initiate and install the Mahamurtis there to bless the future generations to come. When after the Mandana Mishras, who became Sureshwaracharya, Shankaracharya travelled towards south from Bihar and reached the very powerful Sree Sailam. In Sree Sailam, he did Shivananda Lahari and Saundarya Lahari. And in Shivananda Lahari, we have one of the slokams, Sandhyaramba Vijrumbitam Shrutisarasthanantaradishtitam Saprema Brahmarabhiramam Sadvashana Shobhitam Bhogindrabharanam Samasta Sumanah Pudyam Gunavishkatam Seve Sri Giri Mallikarjuna Mahalingam Shiva Lingitam. Shivananda Lahari is an ecstasy and rapture of devotion that gave 103 slokams about Shiva, and Saundarya Lahari is very powerful mantra and tantra tattvam about Shaktiya tattvam of Mother Divine Lalita Mahathre Prasundari, the very secretive Sri Chakram, Sri Chakropasana, the Kundalini Tantram, the Tantra Yogam, the Mantra Yogam, the Yantra Yogam, everything is secretively kept in those 100 shlokas. Only an realized soul and an able Guru will be able to explain the secrets that are hidden in Saundarya Lahari. These two magnum opus of Shankaracharya were done at Sree Sailam, and Sree Sailam given its very powerful Jyotirlingam and Shaktipeetam of Mother Goddess Brahmaramba. Kapalikas used to live and continue to live on the forests of Sree Sailam. One of the Kapalikas approached Shankaracharya and requested Shankaracharya and to help him in his sacrifice, and said, "O Guru Shankaracharya, like the saint Dadichi has sacrificed his body to make the Vajrayudham, I want your head so I can sacrifice the great, very knowledgeable, immaculate saint like you in my Kapalika Homam, and therefore I will reach the Kailasha abode in this human form, and there is nobody else who comes even to a close third in comparison. Therefore I am requesting you, given the ocean of mercy that Sankaracharya is, and given his detachment with the body, he readily agreed, and he said a time when the Kapalika should come, when the disciples will be far away, because the disciples will not allow Shankaracharya's sacrifice by Kapalika. Therefore he prescribed a time, and before the time when all the disciples, Padmapacharya, Sureshwaracharya and everyone were in their own Diksha, were doing their Vedic rituals in the Krishna Nadi and Sree Sailam, Shankaracharya was in deep samadhi, losing all his body consciousness. The Kapalika came and was approaching Shankaracharya with a razor sharp sword. Padmapacharya, who was a Narsimhopasaka, was doing the Narsimha mantra in the Krishna Nadi at the foot of Sree Sailam hills, and he saw the scene of Kapalika approaching his Guru Shankaracharya. Immediately he roared like a lion and chanted the very powerful Narsimha mantra. He became Narasimha himself, like that Narasimha who came out of the pillar to sever the body of Hiranyaksha, Padmapacharya became that ferocious lion which jumped from the foot of the hills to where the Bhagavad Pada was in deep samadhi and jumped on the Kapalika and severed his neck from the body, killing him in one shot and blow. And when this lion roar was heard, the sound brought back Sankaracharya from his deep samadhi. When he looked at the super consciousness of Padmapacharya in Nrsimha Mantram, and the Lord Nrsimha, who was in front of him, he bowed down to Nrsimha for saving him and calmed down the Nrsimha by chanting his mantras. And Padmapacharya returned to his state, therefore demonstrating his Guru devotion, dedication. Protecting the Guru's body is always the duty of the disciples. As long as the Guru is in the body, disciples will continue to get the Guru Vani, or the voice of the Guru will be heard. Therefore, Guru Sushrutsha, to protect Guru, is one of the primemost duties of every disciple. When Padmapacharya demonstrated this, he continued to prove his Guru Sushrutsha level to Bhagavan Sankaracharya. After this, Sankaracharya lived for a few more months on that very powerful Sree Sailam, and from Sree Sailam he went on to Gokarnam, Harihara, which is a Punya Sthalam, or a pilgrimage in Karnataka. From there he went to Mukambika, and at Mukambika he went on to the mountains, the Western Ghats, and which is called Kodachadri. On Kodachadri, Bhagavan Sankaracharya prayed there for few months on the Mother Divine, and when Mother Divine appeared, she said, continue to walk. Wherever you look back, I will stop there. And Sankaracharya started walking from that Western Ghats peaks, and Mother Divine followed him. When they descended down onto the mountain and were walking, suddenly there was a soft mud and sand by the banks of water and a small pond. When Mother entered that soft pond of mud and sand, her anklet stopped to make sound. Sankaracharya turned back because the sound stopped, and that's where Mother said, since you turned back, I will stay back here. And that is the very powerful Mukambika place, pilgrimage and temple that is established now. This Mukambika temple is very, very famous for Akshabhyasam, where people with speech disabilities, people with cognitive disabilities are taken, and when they take the darshan of Mukambika, they will be blessed and relieved of their previous purva karmas, and their vak, the speech capabilities, will significantly increase. Now, when Bhagavan Sankaracharya was walking ahead from Mukambika, he went to a place called Sree, and there a Brahmin by the name Prabhakar Sharma approached Sankaracharya with a young boy of 7 years and said, this is my son of 7 years. He does not behave properly, he is always silent, he sits alone, he does not play in the company of others. Even when others tease him, he does not cry and laugh. Whatever we say does not bother him. He is always in his own world of thinking and lost, and he is always reading the very intense Vedic scriptures, which many of the Vedic scholars of our village are not able to understand, and saying that self-radiating 7-year-old kid was brought in front of Bhagavan Sankaracharya, and Sankaracharya looked at that 7-year-old kid he fell like a rod in front of Bhagavan Shankaracharya and refused to stand back up from his prostration. And when Shankaracharya smiled and said, "My dear disciple son, get up. You have no fear. You need not leave me and go." At this, Prabhakar Sharma was confused and looked at Jagathguru Adi Sankaracharya. Jagathguru said, "Your son's name starting today is Hastamalaka. He is not an ordinary being. He is a Brahmagyani from birth. He is chosen to be one of my prime disciples, and he will continue to be with me, with my entourage, as one of the most prime disciples who will establish the Vedic order. You can leave." Saying that, Hastamalaka, looking at the compassion and love of his Guru, chanted the Hastamalaka Stotram, which goes as Naham Manushyo Nacha Deva Yaksho Na Brahmana Kshatriya Vaishya Sudraha Na Brahmachari Na Hi Gruhivanasto Bhikshur Nacha Nijabuddha Rupam. This says, I am not the Manushya, nor the Yaksha, nor the Devas. I am not a Brahman, not a Kshatriya, nor the Vaishya, nor the Sudra. I am not a Brahmachari, nor a Grihastha. I am not a Vanaprastha. I am not someone who is identified with this body, but I am someone beyond the body. I am that consciousness, that awareness. When Bhagavan Shankaracharya heard this, he hugged the 7-year-old Hastamalaka and said, "My dear disciple son, I will write a commentary on your Atma Tattvam and Atma Darshanam." And saying that Shankaracharya chose his disciples' work, not his guru's work, to write commentary on. That shows the intellectual bandwidth of Hastamalaka. This is the great third devotee of Shankaracharya, Hastamalaka. From there, with the three of the prime devotees, Padmapacharya, Sureshwaracharya and Hastamalaka, Bhagavan Shankaracharya started walking towards the very powerful Rushya Sringapuram, or the current day Sringeri, which we will discuss in the next episode. Stay blessed, continue to spread the bliss. Sree maathre namaha. Sree maathre namaha. In the previous episode, we have discussed about Gokarna, Hariharapuram, Kodachadri, Mukhambika, Sribali and Hastamalaka, and his initiation as a disciple of Bhagavan Shankaracharya and into Sannyasatvam. Today we will discuss about Sringeri. When Bhagavan Shankaracharya arrived at Sringeri with the 3 disciples, he found his 4th disciple and the oldest of the 4, Anandagiri, at Sringeri. When Bhagavan Shankaracharya was on the banks of Kaveri in Sringeri, he saw a very strange sight. A pregnant frog that was in labor on the scorching heat of sun was being provided shelter in the form of shadow by a king cobra, which raised its hood and was protecting the labor stuck mother frog that was about to deliver. When Shankaracharya looked at this very loving sight, he realized a Mahatma should have done his tapasya or penance in this place, and he went into deep meditation at the banks of Kaveri, and he realized none other than Lord Sri Ramachandra's brother-in-law, Rishyasringa, husband of Shanta Devi, the sister of Sri Rama, and one of the gurus of the great devotee god Bhagavan Anjaneya. Rishyasringa performed his penance on those great mountains, and therefore the Janma Vairi, the animosity from birth, has been forgotten by the snake and the frog, and they are oozing out love for each other. This is one great feature that you will still see in Ramanashramam, where peacocks and snakes don't fight with each other and don't kill, given the divine Tattvam and the Aham Brahmasmi, the Eka Brahma Tattvam that Ramana focused on, that Skandashramam in Arunachalam still continues to have those radiating divine waves of bliss that ooze out love, unconditional love for all fellow beings, irrespective of the external form and factor. When at Sringeri, Bhagavan Sankaracharya realized this and he understood the significance of that place and made a sankalpam to start one of the Amnaya Peetams in Sringeri. And as he was thinking about it, he realized a relatively old disciple who was standing with folded hands wherever Sankaracharya was going. Sankaracharya summoned him and asked, "What is your name?" He said, "Anandagiri." And Sankaracharya smiled and said, "What a beautiful name. Your name means you are a mountain of happiness. And seemingly so, you are a very pleasing personality. Can I request you to do my service of washing clothes?" And Anandagiri jumped at it and said, "Bhagavan, it is a pleasure to be of your disciple," saying that I am of no comparison to all your other scholastic students, so I will always do your service wherever you go, saying that Giri was the most obedient Sishya of Bhagavan Sankaracharya. He was the topmost, even more than Padmapacharya in Guru Sushrusha. For him, doing the service to his master was the only motto of his life. And he never showed his back. Whenever Guru would come, he will always walk at the back of the Guru. And before the Guru would walk on any path, if he were to walk in front of the Guru, he would walk facing his face, taking steps at the back. And that was the devotion of Anandagiri. One day, when all the disciples gathered and Giri was still washing the clothes of Bhagavan Sankaracharya on the banks of Kaveri, all the other Sishyas were restless. They said, "What is the point in waiting for Giri? He does not anyways realize and understand most of the things that you have to impart, and he is one of the ignorant ones." When they laughed at it, Bhagavan Sankaracharya wanted to show them the power of Guru Sushrusha and Guru Krupa. With that intent, when Bhagavan Sankaracharya looked for a fraction of a second into Giri's eyes, who was on the river bank, the karuna that was flowing and oozing out of Sankaracharya's eyes enabled Giri to realize the Brahma Jnanam. And Giri, standing on the banks of Kaveri with folded hands, chanted, which continues to be chanted at every Jagathguru Samharadhana till date, which is known as Totakastakam, because it goes in the Totaka meter, which is chanted and which goes as Viditakila Shastra Masuda Jalade Mahitopanishad Kathitartha Nide Hrudaye Kalaye Vimalam Charanam Bhavashankara Deshikame Sharanam Karuna Varunalaya Palaya Mam Bhavasagara Dukka Viduna Hrudam Rachaya Kila Darshana Tattva Vidam Bhavashankara Deshikame Sharanam Bhavata Janata Suhita Bhavita Nijaboda Vicharana Charumate Kalayeshwara Jiva Viveka Vidam Bhavashankara Deshikame Sharanam. This is how it goes. And this was chanted by Anandagiri. And when this erupted out of Anandagiri, all the disciples of Sankaracharya were awestruck, looking at the fountain that was coming out of Giri, which continued as Bhava eva bhavanita me nitaram samajayata chetasi kautukitau Mama varaya moha mahajaladim bhava shankara deshika me sharanam sukrute adikrute bahuda bhavato bhavita samadarshana lala sata atideenam amam paripalaya mam bhavashankara deshika me sharanam. Jagatim avitim kalita krutayo vicharanti mahamahasachalataha ahimamshu rivatra vibhasi guru bhavashankara deshika me sharanam. Guru pungava pungava ketanate samatamayatam nahiko apisudi sharanagata vatsala tattvanide bhavashankara deshika me sharanam. Vidita namaya vishadaika kala sachakinchana kanchana masti guru drutameva videhi krupam sahajam bhava shankara deshika me sharanam. Every stanza completes with bhava shankara deshika me sharanam. Bhava shankara, bhava is samsaram, shankara is shankaroti iti shankara, the one who does only good. Deshika means one who does set the direction, like a compass, spiritual and moral compass. Me sharanam, I take refuge at that moral compass that sets my direction of spiritual prosperity by one who does good and only good and elevates me from the samsara. Bhava shankara deshika me sharanam. Whoever listens to Totakastakam and chants the Totakastakam continues to accept Jagathguru as his or her guru and the lineage. This episode turned and transformed Giri to Totaka, and at Sringeri Sureshwaracharya has written Naishkarmya Siddhi, Padmapacharya has written Brahmasutra Bhashyas, and Anandagiri has written Totaka Ashtakam, and Hastamalaka has written innumerable Advaita Atma concepts. When this was happening, Aryamba, Sankaracharya was almost 25 years old. Aryamba was reaching her last few days of life. Sankaracharya realized what was about to come, and he went to Kaladi. When he approached, his mother was on the deathbed, and she was very happy to see the Jagathguru, but her son, that single seed that was born in the temple womb of Aryamba, he is now a full-fledged 25-year-old able body that everyone boasts to, but that body, divine Kailasha Shankara as Kaladi Shankara, bowed down to the mother, and he requested the mother to chant a few mantras, and then after the mother chanted those mantras, he summoned the messengers of the Shiva's world. When mother looked at the Shiva's messengers, she was a little scared. Then Shankaracharya asked them to go, and he summoned the Vishnu messengers. When Vishnu messengers have come, mother was happy to see them, and she chanted the Vishnu Ashtakshari and the Ilavelpu Krishna mantras. And when she left the mortal coils without any struggle and pain, very easily she left the body and reached the Vaikuntham. Shankaracharya, given that he became a sannyasi, he requested the neighbors, asking them to come help, and they ridiculed him, saying, "Who asked you to become a sannyasi, and who asked you to abandon your mother and go?" At which Shankaracharya gave a curse to all the people residing in the Devabhumi, Kerala, that majority of you will become incompetent to study Veda. You will be born in a very traditional family, but you will do a lot of non-traditional things. Unless you and your forefathers are blessed, you will not go back to your roots before you reach your 60th year. And no sannyasi will walk this place for bhiksha. And those sannyasi who will walk here will be insulted by all of you. Therefore, each of you getting 10,000 times more papam than you deserve. And starting today, all the people of this land will cremate their dead in their backyard because they refused to do the final rites of my mother, saying that he wrapped the body of his mother in the banana leaves and he generated the Yogagni from his right hand and set his mother's body on fire, which turned into ashes in less than 2 seconds. This was the divine departure of Mother Aryamba. At the same time, Padmapada who was traveling on pilgrimage from north to south, left his works at Srirangam with his maternal uncle. Maternal uncle who read it was jealous of the quality of work of Padmapada Acharya, and realizing the Advaita concepts that he was propounding, he burned the books. So burning the books alone will not be sufficient because it will look like an act of greed. His maternal uncle burned his own house in which he kept the books, so he can blame the fire accident consumed the books that were written by Padmapacharya. And when Padmapada returned from Rameshwaram, he was very sad to learn about the fire accident, and he went to his guru, Jagathguru Sankaracharya, and explained what happened, and he was very sad. Sankaracharya smiled and said, I knew this was about to come. Therefore, when you chanted, when you read aloud your bhashyams to me, I remembered everything. And given the Eka Santagrahi that Jagathguru Sankaracharya was, he reproduced letter by letter back to Padmapada, who has written it down. And Padmapada Acharya's Bhashya Prithikas are now called Panchapadika. When Padmapacharya finished writing it, he danced with joy, and that is how it was accomplished. During this process, one of the Shakteya devotees who was defeated by Jagathguru Sankaracharya by the name Navagupta requested Jagathguru to be his disciple and applied black magic on Jagathguru, which made him severely, terribly ill. If Jagathguru wanted, he could have restored his health in no time, but Padmapada used his mantra Shakti to reflect the black magic that was done on his guru back at Navagupta, now which the deceased started eating Navagupta alive. This demonstrates Padmapada Acharya's power and how even Shankaracharya fell prey to the jealousy of others during his times. To stay blessed, we'll continue to discuss the remaining part of Sankaracharya in the next episode. Stay blessed and spread the bliss across. Sree, maathre, namaha. Sree, maathre, namaha. In the previous episode, we have discussed about Mother Aryamba's divine departure, Padmapada's work being burned by his maternal uncle and being reproduced by the Ekasantagrahi Jagathguru Adi Sankara, therefore which is called Panchapadika, and black magic and its application on Jagathguru, which Padmapacharya reflected on Navagupta. Now we will discuss about the 4 Amnaya Pithas that Jagathguru established at the age of 30. He established the 4 Pithas which continue to be the foundational stones of Sanatana Dharma even till date. In the east, in Jagannathapuri, is established one Matham which was responsible for Rigveda, and the Pithacharya was Hastamalaka. In the west, Dwaraka, Samaveda was the established Veda for Dwarka Pitam, and Padmapada was made the Pithacharya. These two, east and west, were by the shores of Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea. In the north, in Badrika Ashramam, the Badrika Pitam was established and Atharvana Vedam was given to them, and Totaka Acharya was made the Pithacharya. For Dakshinamnaya Peetham. In the south, Sringeri, Yajur Vedam was given and Sureshwaracharya was made the first Peethacharya. After establishing these 4 Amnaya Matams, Jagathguru walked back to Mahakasi, and there on the banks of Ganga one evening he saw the vision of his Parama Guru Gaudapadacharya. The deathless and desireless saint appeared, giving a very affectionate hug to his Paramasishya and appreciated all the divine efforts that were accomplished by Bhagavad Pada in the life of Bhagavad Pada, which was already 31 years old now. Then Gaudapada Acharya said, "Son, the one thing that you need to now do is go to Kashmiram, and there you have the Sarvagna Peetham. Go sit on the Sarvagna Peetham." Sarvagna Peetham in Kashmir is a Saraswati Peetham of an intellectual throne where people who defeat all the other scholars, all the other faiths can sit. The Sarvagna Peetham has 4 gates: east, west, north, south. 3 gates from 3 sides of the gates, one on the east, one on the west, one on the north, were open because scholars born in those directions have reached Kashmir, Sarvagna Peetham, and in the scholastic debates have defeated every other practitioner, but that far nobody from south has reached that feat. Sankaracharya had a grueling debate and won over the Nyayas, the Sankhyas, the Buddhists, the Digambara Jains, and many other ritualistic, Avaidic faiths that were very prevalent at that time, that were not completely teaching and preaching what the Vedas stood for as the stand of time. When after defeating them, the south gate was opened, and holding the Padmapada's hand, Sankaracharya was about to sit on the throne of Sarvagna Peetham. The Akashavani, a voice from the sky was heard saying, "You need to be immaculate. Do you think you are immaculate?" And Jagathguru said, "I know why the question is being asked. Given the Shastra of Union or Kama that I learned in the body of the king, the karma does not entail this body. In that body I followed the dharma of the king, the husband, and lived up to the expectations as required by that body. When the stipulated time was done, I left the body and went back to my mortal coils in which I am now. So whatever sins I have committed, or whatever karma I have committed which is not a sin in that body, does not hold good to this body, and this is something that the Veda says." And when that response was given, the Akashvani went silent and the sky started flowering, and a bunch of flowers were spilled across the throne and feet of Jagathguru Adi Sankaracharya. He sat on the Sarvagna Peetham, and from Sarvagna Peetham, Jagathguru summoned all his disciples to go to the respective Amnaya Mats, bless them. They asked if there is anything that they need to follow. He said, "Always in doubt, refer to Vedas. If you can't refer to Vedas, refer to the Upanishads. If you are not able to refer to the Upanishads, refer to an able guru in the human body. If you don't have access to an able guru, bow down to Dakshinamurti in your thought and will, and listen to the inner voice that is they knew as Para Pashyanti Madhyama Vaikari. Listen to that Parashakti which talks only truth, nothing but for the truth. Follow this and you will always be like the water drop on top of a tamara leaf. Saying that, he said goodbye to all his disciples, blessed them, and left for the Badri Narayana. And Guru Govinda Padacharya, he was reminded of, he was just sat and reflected on the works that he had to accomplish as per the divine order of Shiva. Secrets of Upanishads were revealed to a common man and ignorant person like me. Re-established the Advaita by Tat Tvam Asi and Aham Brahmasmi. And then, after taking blessings from the Badri Narayana at the Vyasapitham, Bhagavan Sankaracharya, who is now almost 32 years old, went to the very powerful Kedarnath. And at Kedarnath, after going to that Kedaralingam, the retinue of all the gods and goddesses, sages, started gathering in the evening sky on that beautiful evening where Sankaracharya bowed down to the Shivalingam and walked back to the Shivalingam and then started walking towards the Himalayas, and his Vahanam Nandi came down. Sankaracharya sat on the Nandi and slowly the Nandi started walking towards the Mount Kailash, and the Dakshinamurti, the Kailasa Avatar Shankara, who came down as Kaladi Shankara, went back to Kailasham to become one with Kailasha Shankara with the same mortal coils that he was. He walked this planet on, and this is a brief attempt at explaining Bhagavan Shankaracharya's life. The 32 very significant years, born in 788 AD, left the mortal coils in 820 AD. This was a very brief attempt. To the extent Mother Divine, Lalita Mahatripur Sundari and Father Divine allowed us, remembering the grace of Jagathguru Adi Sankara Jayanthi, who protected our Sanatana Dharma and continues to protect our Sanatana Dharma by the 4 pitams that he established, which continue to be the foundational stones of our existence, of heritage and culture. Do take care, continue to stay blessed, spread the bliss around. Sree, maathre, namaha.